And number 10, ancient Egyptian power tools. We all know how smart the ancient Egyptians must have been. What with their pyramids we couldn't even recreate today if we tried. But with this recent discovery, it seems like these dudes were more technologically advanced than we could have possibly imagined. So this researcher, Christopher Dunn, was basically Sherlock's homing his way through the remnants of the pyramids, looking at how the ancient builders must have made their stuff, and what he found was seriously mind-boggling. But to the untrained eye, it seems pretty innocuous. Just a simple ribbed core, which would have been drilled out from the limestone and discarded during the pyramid's creation. Now those grooves you see when something's been cut. Now Dunn noticed these grooves on the sarcophagus in the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, but they weren't just any grooves. They were similar to what our modern bandsaws make. See, the thing is, the distance between these grooves were teeny tiny, about 0.05 of an inch. It's like trying to fit an ant between them. Now, nowadays, for us to get those marks, our tools would need to move way slower, but there's more. See, those ancient Egyptians weren't just good at grooving, they were drilling into granite like it was a piece of cake. The drilling technique, which was thought of as trepanning, left behind cores. Now, here's the mind-blowing part. Their drill went into the rock at a crazy rate of 0.1 inch per spin. Today, even with our modern diamond drills spinning at 900 revolutions per minute, we can only manage about 0.0002 inches per spin. It's a whopping 500 times slower than what the ancient Egyptian builders were doing. This means that the Egyptians had access to drilling tools that are more sophisticated than today's technology would allow. So either those dudes back then are smarter than we are, or they were assisted by time travelers from the future. Or both. Probably both. At number 9 is this 1.8 billion year old nuclear reactor. So almost 2 billion years ago, that's billion with a B, when humans weren't even a thought, let alone a species, there might have been a nuclear reactor just chilling in Gabon, Africa. Pretty crazy. In the 70s, these French cats bought some uranium back from there, thinking it was just regular stuff, but as it turns out, it had already been activated and mined. Cue the detective music. Now, scientists went Sherlock on this and found out that this place used to be a full-blown nuclear reactor for 500,000 years. And here's where it gets even nuttier. Dr. Glenn T. Seaborg, a big shot in nuclear science, like I'm talking Nobel Prize winning level over here, he said, hold up, this nuclear reactor can't be a natural formation. Why? Because for uranium to go nuclear, it needs conditions so picky you would think it was a diva. The water needs to be insanely clean, like way cleaner than usual. Plus, there's this special isotope called U-235 that's crucial for the party to start. The uranium-235 isotope levels here were just not enough for a natural nuclear rave. The U-235 levels found in this ancient reactor weren't actually high enough to kickstart this atomic party. So think about it. A nuclear reactor before humanity was even a thing. Time travel vibes or what? This artifact throws textbooks out the window. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. Number 8. This 2.8 billion year old sphere. It's even older than the reactor. So imagine stumbling upon these tiny round things in a South African mine, thinking that they're just kind of cute little rocks. But no, some folks argue that they might be the ultimate proof that time travel is real. Known as the Klerksdorp spheres, are like celebrities of the geology world. People debate whether or not they're natural or handmade by ancient humans. Now here's the kicker. Well, it wouldn't be ancient humans because it's far older than our species. But here's the kicker. These guys have neat grooves on their surface, and they're tougher than tough. Not even being able to be scratched with steel. Pretty wild, kind of makes you wonder how those grooves were even put there in the first place. These spheres are older than old, like 2.8 billion years ancient, which is super mind-boggling. But here's where the mystery deepens. See, nobody's really sure how these things were formed. Some say they're formed by nature, but those grooves in that hardness, it's a really tough nut to crack. Now this debate is huge. If these spheres were made by prehistoric monkey people back in ancient times, it's a game changer for the history books. But if nature's the artist here, well, it's one tricky piece of Earth's history's puzzle that we're still trying to figure out. These spheres might hold the key to unlocking some incredible secrets of our past. At number 7 are the 150,000-year-old pipes. Pipes, yeah, like the ones for plumbing, just chilling in this cave that dates back 150,000 years. That's way before our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were even a twinkle in somebody's eye. And even way before the ancient Romans figured out how plumbing works. But here's the kicker. When experts took a closer look at these pipes, they found something mind-boggling. About 8% of the material used to make these pipes couldn't be identified whatsoever. It's like trying to figure out what's in a secret sauce recipe, but with way more mystery involved. But there's more! These pipes aren't your run-of-the-mill kind. They're actually a bit on the radioactive side. Yeah, pipes that emit radioactivity kind of makes you wonder what the people putting through those pipes. Kind of makes you wonder what was in their diet. Now, this isn't your everyday plumbing material. A geology expert thinks that maybe these pipes were formed when super hot stuff from way down in the Earth's belly rose up and solidified into tubes, which sounds plausible, but even this expert scratched their head and admitted that there's something pretty strange going on here. So these pipes could be the breadcrumbs hinting at the possibility of time travel being more than just a sci-fi dream. They're like a sneak peek into a world we thought only existed in wild sci-fi movies, but hey, the mystery remains unsolved. At number 6, the glorification of the Eucharist from the late 16th century. Ventura Salimbeni's painting in the Church of St. Peter Montalcino, it's in Italy. It's a head-scratcher for sure. Imagine this, the experts, all knowledgeable about art history, were trying to explain this weird spherical thing in the painting that's what's supposed to be a creation globe, and the wand-like objects that are being held by Jesus Christ and God are symbols of divine power, but here's where it gets really interesting. Have you guys ever heard of Sputnik? That was the very first satellite sent into space by the Soviets way back in '57. Now picture this. There's a replica of Sputnik sitting pretty in the National Air and Space Museum, and when you get the painting and the Sputnik and you put them side by side, they're literally twins, separated by centuries. Same size, same shine, even down to the little prong. Now some folks entertain the wild idea that maybe Sputnik did a quick time travel stint swinging back to the 16th century. Others, though, they lean towards the UFO theory. Yeah, thing in the painting might just be a unidentified flying object. But here's the kicker. The mystery remains unsolved. Is this due to time travel? Is it UFOs? Jury's still out on this one, waiting for a Sherlock Holmes of the art world to crack open this case. Time travel? Maybe. UFOs? Possibly. At number 5 are the Nazca lines. These massive drawings, sprawling across the Peruvian desert, are seriously something else. They've been around for more than 1,500 years. Just imagine, back when there were no smartphones or drones, these ancient folks managed to create giant images that you could only fully appreciate from up in the sky. Now, the variety of these drawings, the animals, the shapes, and the designs are so precise it's hard to believe that they were made without some kind of aerial guidance. Some folks think that they represent constellations, or maybe a sort of homage to gods, but the mystery here is still unsolved. In 2022, archaeologists stumbled upon 150 new Nazca lines. I mean, you'd think after all these years with Google Earth and satellites and whatnot, we'd at least found them all by now, but no, these discoveries just keep adding more questions. At number 4 is the Iron Pillar of Delhi. This thing has perplexed experts for ages. I mean, we're talking about an iron column that has stood tall for at least 1,500 years. Some even speculate that it might be older than that. And here's the kicker, despite all those years, it's rust-free. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. This pillar is 99.72% pure iron. It's impressive by today's standards even. I'm talking about a level of purity that even modern experts struggle to achieve. They've tried to replicate it and they can't crack the code. And get this, and they can't crack the code as even our iron is only like 99.8% pure iron, which is like 0.8% more, which is crazy. But what's even crazier is that it doesn't have any of the usual suspects found in modern high-grade iron like manganese and sulfur. It's just a pure iron anomaly. The engraved Nakisos of an enthroned woman with an attendant from 100 BC. This stone carving from over 2,000 years ago depicts a strange sight. A kid holding what looks like a laptop in front of a person seated on a throne. The artwork, chilling at the Getty Villa in Los Angeles, got some folks scratching their heads. The museum even claims this box is a container, yet one that's far too shallow to hold anything big. Now some say it's a jewelry box or a makeup box, comparing it to other stuff that... Now some say it's a jewelry or a makeup box, but what if it's not? Imagine if the folks who sculpted this used high-tech software like AutoCAD on their MacBook, which sounds pretty bonkers. This artifact seems to raise eyebrows because it's familiar to our tech, but it's from way, way back. At number 2 is the 2,000-year-old batteries. Imagine stumbling upon a set of ancient jars, which would be pretty cool in its own, but these aren't just any old jars, mind you. They're like the ancestors of modern-day batteries. Picture clay jars decked out with asphalt stoppers and iron rods, kicking it from all the way back from 2,000 years ago. This conveyance consists of a clay vessel inside which is a copper cylinder held in place by asphalt. And within the cylinder, archaeologists found an oxidized iron rod. So back in 1938, this German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig suggested that these could be galvanic cells, perhaps used for electroplating gold onto silver objects. Nobody could prove the dude wrong, especially since all you need was to fill it with acid or alkalines. Considering all you needed to do was fill it with an acid or alkaline substance to produce an electric charge. These jars, let's call them ancient batteries, can actually whip up more electricity than you'd expect, turning out just over a volt, which is pretty shocking, pun intended. Now, the battery wouldn't have been a very effective one, but still, ancient batteries. At number 1, let's dive into these ancient paintings. First is the Madonna with Saint Giovanni. This painting is famous for having a blob-like thing in the sky. I mean, we have Mary, baby Jesus, Saint John just chilling in a classic 15th century scene, but where's that disc-shaped blob to the right of Mary? It's got a guy and a dog staring at it. Some people speculate that this might be more than just the Holy Family going on here. Some think that those beings might be from outer space. Imagine that, extraterrestrials photobombing a centuries-old painting. Now, this other painting, the Inoculation with Saint Emetius, is a whole different story. This masterpiece illustrates the Gabriel angel giving Mary the heads up about baby Jesus. But hold up! In this painting, it appears like Mary's receiving the news from a beam of light coming from a strange otherworldly object. Some folks got way out there suggesting that Mary might have had an otherworldly encounter leading to her pregnancy with Jesus. So was Christ an alien? Probably.
So starting us off in at number 10, like we always do, with an Egyptian statues moving by itself at a Manchester museum. You can't really tell the statue is moving on its own until you speed it up. Once it's sped up, you can really notice this thing moving on its own. Okay, did you guys see that? Well, if you missed it, let's replay the video. The statue that's moving is right over here. So that was a 10-inch tall relic, which dates back to the 1800 BC, and it seems to still be alive today. It was found in a mummy tomb and has been at the Manchester Museum for 80 years. So maybe this thing has been moving ever since and we're just realizing now. Maybe the mummy is still alive within it. I don't want to mess around with mummies, so let's move on. And you know what? Let's move on to number 9. I don't know about you guys, but there is nothing for us to believe that this video is fake. It looks like what you see is what you get. And what we see was this motorcycle moving on its own. This motorcycle out of nowhere just decided to knock over its competition. I wonder if that spirit that moved the motorcycle was charged for reckless driving. Hopefully the spirit also didn't pick up a DWI, and that's because that crash seemed to be pretty avoidable. So maybe that spirit had too much to drink. How do we arrest it? I don't know. Maybe we call the Ghostbusters. Maybe we call Dean Winchester. Is that his name? You know, the guy from Supernatural? Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen the show. I think it's been like 10 years, but I think his name's like Sam and Dean Winchester. Okay, moving on to number 8. We have a kid's toy cart that moved on its own by some sort of like spirit or maybe even a demon. Well, when I watch this, it freaks me out. If If this for some reason is fake, I don't know why people are doing this. Why are people doing this to me? Maybe this guy was trying to freak out his daughter for some reason, or maybe they're just trying to get those YouTube views. Although this video only received like 300 views, the description of the video was, "I caught yet another demon moving a toy cart." So maybe this is a demon hunter and this guy caught this demon in action. Alright, let me take you guys into a very dark alley. I don't usually do this, but we're doing this at number 7. This is for sure one alley you might want to avoid because spirits are strong here. What you're about to see is a bit hard to see, but you will see a spirit thief successfully stealing a bike. Hopefully this isn't your bike, but watch this. The spirit thought he wasn't seen, but they were totally captured on CCTV camera. Let me show you guys an up close look at what you just saw. And clearly there's no one on that bike. Well, no one that we can see. If that is not creepy, I don't know what is. And how could you even report that to the police? My bike was stolen and I know who stole it. Well, actually I should say I know what stole it. Number 6. Okay, so that was very subtle movement by the chair, but I'm pretty sure it shouldn't be moving on its own. It's not just once that it moves. It kept moving and moving. There is for sure some paranormal activity happening in that living room. If I recorded this video and I viewed it the next day, I would be throwing out that chair. There's no way I'm gonna be able to live with myself knowing that there is a freaking spirit within that chair. So you gots to go. Moving into number 5, we have the real life Ted, who started moving because he thought no one saw him, but then he realized and then was like, oh shit. And then he went back down. He realized he was on camera. So yeah, the video I'm about to show you is kind of creepy and it happens pretty quickly. So watch. This is why I think I grew up kind of afraid of stuffed animals. I never looked at them for too long because if I saw them moving, I would freak out, so I kind of avoided eye contact. And clearly if the camera wasn't filming this bear, he would have gone all the way up and then who knows what he was capable of doing after that. Number 4, a doll comes back to life. Alright, that clip happened fast. Let me show you guys it again and make sure you guys pay attention to the doll with blonde hair that's sitting in the back of this room. The doll's head, it moves. Is this real life right now? Why? Just why? Why the heck is the doll moving? Stop freaking me out. There's something living inside of it and hopefully it's not like something evil. Hopefully not an evil spirit. Number 3 is going to freak you out. I promise you. And also make sure you guys turn down your speakers a little bit. This is a warning. And if you have earbuds in, yeah, maybe take one of them out. Because what you're about to see is a woman who just yells. Like it's pretty loud. And that's because she's holding a doll and the doll decides to look at her and she totally freaks out. And the video is kind of old, so I don't, and it's handheld. It seems super hard to fake. I think everything you're about to see is 100% real.
Bueno, aquí les presentamos a la muñeca de Bessie que se la regalaron a sus 15 años. No manches, mira.
Okay, holy shit. Okay, did I warn you or not? The doll just looks at the girl as if she was gonna like tell her something. She didn't even notice it at first until I think it was her mom filming. She told her that the doll moved and then when she noticed it, she totally freaked out. Next up at number 2, we have a ghost chair that appears out of nowhere. What's scarier, objects moving on its own or objects that just appear out of thin air? Maybe it was sent to us from another dimension. Have you ever thought of that? Alright, so take a look at this video. Focus on the middle desk near the bottom of the screen. Someone pissed off that spirit. I don't even know where that chair came from. Maybe it was there the whole time and it was kind of hidden in the shadows or in the darkness, I'll call it. I was looking so many times, I replayed it over and over, and it just seems to come out of nowhere. And I know what you guys are thinking. There's probably someone under the desk who pushed the chair out. But if someone pushed the chair out, the chair would have hit the wall behind it. How is the chair pushed out and then moved sideways and like it went so far by like so much force? A lot of like evil spirits and evil forces. Also, this video was filmed way after hours, so unless someone was just heavily invested into this, they were underneath the desk for like 10 hours to pull this prank off, it seems like there might actually be a problem spirit in the office. Finally, at number 1, we have this.
Watch the bar stools in the middle of the screen as one topples to the floor. The movement caught on a security camera in the middle of the night.
Okay, so this took place at Ventura Bar in the middle of the night. The manager of the bar posted that video on social media and it had people freaked out, yeah. And then just a few weeks after that video was captured, another video was able to capture more chairs moving, but this time it wasn't in the middle of the night. It was in daytime in front of people.
Watch as the chair moves.
See that?
A woman having lunch checks it out.
For this to happen, that's pretty creepy.
Maybe this guy pissed off his spirit and now they're getting their revenge. And you know what? The bar is actually pretty creepy because the manager, he keeps a whole wall of every customer or employees that have passed away.
They were our first originals, these old guys. They actually introduced me to my wife, and they died 25 years ago. And whenever something funny happens, we always blame it on them.
We might have found who the spirits are.
At number 10, we have Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. And you think space, and where does your mind go? Star Wars or Star Trek? Well, congratulations if it's the former, because a little bit of Star Wars spent a little bit of time in space. Back in 2007, the space shuttle Discovery launched the STS-120 astronaut crew with an iconic prop on board with them. The lightsaber Mark Hamill used as Luke Skywalker back in Star Wars back in 2007 joined real astronauts in orbit for 2 whole weeks. An astronaut named Jim Riley said that there is a fine line between science fiction and reality, and the lightsaber served as a neat little link between the 2 space themes. Just imagine, they said they didn't open it, but if they did, they probably, like, let's be real, they did. They just opened it and they were like, phew. That's what I would. But let's go on to number 9, a corned beef sandwich. Now, if you're gonna go on a trip into space, you know it's gonna be a long one. And astronauts, they don't get the best food on board, getting most of their food freeze-dried or just nutrients they suck out of a pouch. But astronaut John Young was hoping for something just a little bit tastier. On March 23rd, 1965, John smuggled a corned beef sandwich on Flight Gemini 3. He got the sandwich from fellow astronaut Wally Schirra, who bought it from a Cocoa Beach, Florida deli. Now, because of the low gravity on the flight, it began to disintegrate when John took a bite, but he did say it was pretty good, and just if it would hold together, you know? All my sandwiches fall apart anyways, sadly. Anyways, another thing that made its way into space? At number 8, we have a saxophone. Now, for his birthday in 2007, Thomas Pesquet got a fun musical gift, his own saxophone. But it wasn't an ordinary delivery since Thomas lived on SpaceX's cargo craft at the time. It was delivered on the SpaceX Dragon alongside some French macaroons for his birthday. And yeah, he said he's a little out of practice since he stopped playing while he was training to be an astronaut, but isn't that cool? Once the workday is done, I can imagine that floating in space, you know, could get a little boring after a while. But if you have some smooth, jazzy tunes on a woodwind to keep you going, it'll all be alright, you know? You like jazz? Keep the beam references in. Whew. Okay. At number 7, piece of a plane. When Neil Armstrong went to the moon in 1969, he brought a little piece of a plane with him. And not just any plane too, but a piece of the rudimentary airplane the Wright brothers flew in 1903 when the aircraft came a few feet off the ground. Now, Neil had with him some of the fabric and some of the propeller of the Wright Flyer, and this was as a homage to pioneers that paved the way in aviation and beyond. Which, of course, all makes sense because the Wright brothers Flyer 1 was the first successful heavier-than-air powered aircraft. And so, you gotta respect those who came along before you, you know? Alright, get ready for it. This one's special. At number 6, we have dirt. And yeah, okay, obviously it's not just any dirt, but it is dirt. The dirt that did go into space came from the pitcher's mound at Yankee Stadium. And you might be thinking, why, Abby? So basically, Garrett Reisman is not only an astronaut, but also a huge Yankees fan. And he was flying on Space Shuttle Endeavour's STS-123 mission back in 2008, and astronauts are allowed to bring mementos, so he thought, hey, why not bring up a little bit of dirt from the stadium of my favorite team? And it seems worth it when you find out he also threw the first ceremonial first pitch from space in microgravity. So the man's dedicated, and he's gonna go down in history, so seems good to me. Now, the next one hasn't just traveled into space, but it has stayed there. At number 5 is the fallen astronaut. Now, not all people who went to the moon made it back safely. It is a risky job to be an astronaut after all. So now, resting on the moon is a small aluminum figurine by Belgian artist Paul van Hooijdonk. It is stylized to try to depict an astronaut in a spacesuit as a way to commemorate those who have passed in the advancement of space exploration. It was put on the moon in 1971 next to a plaque listing 14 American and Soviet men who were known to have died at that point. This was organized by astronaut David Scott before his Apollo 15 lunar mission, and now it serves as a nice tribute to all those who give their life to space. And now, people haven't been the only mammals to not make it through a space mission, which brings me to number 4. Lots of dead space monkeys, many called Albert. Now, before people were sent into space, animals were used to test the waters. Or the space. Now, in the US, monkeys or chimpanzees were used for this, and many were named Albert. After the first one they named Albert, they just decided to keep that name going. In some cases, when the apes passed away, the spacecrafts weren't reported as recovered, which has led people to believe that there may be some space junk out there with some monkeys still in them. Now, not all space places used monkeys back then. During the space race, the Soviets were using dogs to see how the atmosphere would affect creatures, which obviously sparked many heated debates on animal testing, but they don't do that anymore, so yay. Now let's move on to a lighter note, sports! At number 3 we have a golf ball. On the Apollo 14 trip, Alan Shepard decided to bring a couple of golf balls with him on his trip to the moon. He decided, hey, I'll take a few shots on the moon, so he attached a modified 8-iron club head to the end of a device that traditionally collects samples of moon dust, and then he just let her rip. Now, video footage shows that he missed the mark a few times and hit the ground before hitting the ball, but come on, can we really blame the guy? Gravity is different on the moon, so you have to give a guy some time to adjust, right? He sent one 200 yards, which, you know, isn't too bad, but then he sent another one for what he said went on for miles and miles. So one scientist did the math and said Alan was right. With the right hit, a golf ball could be sent about 2.5 miles. So at that point, that's quite a bit more than the world record of 515 yards, and I just want to say, Dad, can you do better than that? Just kidding, love you, Dad. Okay, bye. Let's move on to number 2, Buzz Lightyear toy. I mean action figure, whatever you call it, okay? So to infinity and beyond, and to infinity and beyond good old Buzz Lightyear went. Back in 2008, an action figurine of the Toy Story astronaut hopped aboard the International Space Station with Discovery mission STS-124. He had a jolly old time, possibly missing some other toys to hang out with, but returned 15 months later on STS-128. So now, before Lightyear went on his journey, he was even given the all clear to go by the other Buzz astronaut, Buzz Aldrin. In a promo video for NASA, Buzz Aldrin even told Buzz Lightyear that he, Buzz Aldrin, was the real Buzz. And yes, it's true. Buzz Lightyear's name was inspired by Buzz Aldrin, so this second man to step out on the moon has a legacy more than the moon, also Buzz Lightyear. Toy Story. Yes. But let's finish up with number 1, tardigrades, or water bears. So if you're wondering what these things are, haven't heard it through the grapevine, let me break it down for you. Tardigrades are very tiny, microscopic, 8-legged creatures that are known to survive extreme temperatures. They can withstand being heated to 150 degrees Celsius and frozen to almost absolute zero. So knowing this, scientists did experiments with tardigrades and found out that some could withstand being in the vacuum of space. And this is because they can be brought back to life decades after being dehydrated, or it's at least possibly connected to that. So right now, there are some of these tardigrades, aka water bears, aka moss piglets, on the moon. Now this is since an Israeli spacecraft crash landed on the moon this April. Also, some people think they are still alive, so maybe they'll be the first inhabitants on the moon. That'd be kinda cool, little bears. Microscopic, but yeah. Now,
at number 10, we have the Cursed Rocks of Uluru. You think putting a curse on something would be enough to scare people, but people don't scare like they used to. If you told me that you had a cursed rock, I'd be like, cool dude, keep it away from me. I want nothing to do with that. Sounds like an item you get in The Witcher that slowly kills you until you kill the demon ghost that originally put the curse on the rock. You can find these things in Australia, and I do understand why people take them. They're beautifully colored. I'm sure a bowl of them in the middle of my living room would really tie the room together. But to get a hold of these foreign stones, you're gonna have to deal with some pretty bad luck. People who've taken these rocks from national parks say terrible things have happened to them, from getting super sick to having their marriages fall apart. The park rangers who patrol these cursed lands say that they get at least one package a day of people sending the rocks back to them in hopes of breaking the curse. At number 9, we have Maori warrior masks. I guess if you want some Maori art, you should stick to some paintings and maybe try and avoid the masks. I know they look super nice, but you might have the soul of a dead warrior trapped inside it. The Maori would make these masks for warriors that were going out into battle. You want to look like the best dressed dude on the battlefield if you're going out there to be snapping people's necks. But the Maori believe that when a warrior dies, their spirit is locked away in the mask. I think it's kind of like a genie in a lamp situation, but if you rub it, you don't get any wishes. You just get an angry spirit that will torment you for the rest of your life. So I think it's okay if you get a fresh mask, but if you get one that someone has died in, bad idea. You don't want to get one of these bad boys second hand. Chances are there's the soul of a warrior dude who used to kill people with his bare hands in combat trapped inside it, and that's not something you want to hang up in your kitchen. At number 8, we have old furniture. Who'd have thunk it? You go online, you think you're doing a great thing, you're getting a great deal on a couch that you found on Craigslist. I mean, it would seem like a bargain. Why would someone be giving a perfectly good couch away for such a low price? These deals are insane! Well, if you dig through the ghost stories on Reddit for long enough, it won't take you too much time to find people who've invited unwanted ghouls into their homes by bringing in old pieces of furniture. It seems like ghosts like to grab onto certain items and then they won't let go. It's like when you try to tell an old fling to move on, but they keep breaking into your apartment to steal clumps of your hair. We've all been there. There have been stories of spirits wrapped up in all sorts of things, with most common items being paintings and photographs, but I even found a story about a ghost being attached to a lamp. Dude, could you imagine being the lamp ghost? It would be so hard to get the respect from your fellow ghosts, when you can easily be silenced by someone just turning you off. At number 7, we have Elmo Knows Your Name.
Holy God! What the hell? Oh my God! Oh my freaking God, dude! Oh my God!
Here's a cute toy idea that managed to get disturbingly corrupted. I don't know if you remember the Elmo Knows Your Name doll, but it was supposed to be a toy that you plug into your computer so you could program your kid's name into it, and then Elmo would say your kid's name. A very cute thing in theory. Except one of these Elmo dolls decided to build its own vocabulary. It was supposed to say, "Hi James," but instead it started saying, "Kill James." I think this would be a great time to ask for your money back. This happened to a family in Florida, but by the time they found out that the Elmo doll was telling this to their baby boy, it was too late. The baby had been listening to the doll for a long time now and then started repeating the sentence over and over again. Now, was this a demon that had corrupted the doll, or was it just hackers that found a way to break into the doll's software? Either way, it's probably not a good toy to grab for kids. At number 6, we have Blarney Castle pieces. Here's more rocks that will make your life a living hell. It's crazy how people are ready to risk it all for a piece of a castle. Not even the whole castle. Like, if you told me you can have a giant castle, but there's a big old curse on it, I would probably give it a shot. I mean, worst case scenario, I get the castle, the curse is horrible, and then I sell the castle after I refurbish the kitchen and I make a decent profit. But if you're doing it for rocks, there's no resale value on rocks. Well, if you're wild enough to steal a piece of a castle, you might want to pick a different one. Because if you take a piece of the Blarney Castle in Ireland, you're gonna start to see your life fall apart, all from the Blarney curse. At number 5, we have the Delhi Purple Sapphire. Now, I don't expect anyone watching this video to have this thing in their home, not unless you're a world-class museum thief and you manage to steal it from a sealed container while simultaneously avoiding detection of security cameras and motion sensors. But if you are this person, or you're super rich and you want to buy this sapphire, I would pass and just like buy another island or something. The Delhi Purple Sapphire was originally taken from India in 1857 by Colonel W. Ferris, and once he did this, his life started to suck. His health started to deteriorate and his money started slipping away. He gave it to his son, and then the same thing started happening to his son, and eventually the sapphire worked its way over to a family friend, and guess what? That guy ended up killing himself. Now the sapphire is tucked away in a museum. At number 4, we have a phone number. Now we got a killer phone number on the list. Ooh, so spooky. What happens if you call it? Do you die or something? No, you don't die from calling it, but legend says that whoever is assigned this number will die shortly after. Apparently, there's a demonic force that works at Virgin Mobile. The phone number is 0888 888 888. So if you're ever moving providers and they offer you this new number, you might want to try to hold on to your old plan. The number was apparently given to 2 mob bosses, 1 drug dealer, and 1 human trafficker, who all died shortly after acquiring the number. Now, this could be because the number is cursed, or it could just be their line of work. Usually if you're a drug dealer and a mob boss, your life expectancy is super short. At number 3 we have salty chairs. So in the olden days they would have these things called salt chairs. It's where the person would sit at the table who was closest to the salt. I guess it was kind of an honor back then to do so, because back then the food was so bad that just putting salt on it was like getting a meal prepared by a chef who was personally slapped by Gordon Ramsay. Well, in Newport, Rhode Island, there's a place called the Belcourt Estate that has 2 of these salt chairs. Each one is apparently haunted by people who don't want to give up their spot at the table. They must not know that we have turmeric now. Salt is so 1877. Some people who have sat in these chairs said they have felt like they're being electrocuted, and there has even been reports of people being thrown out of the chair by an unknown force. At number 2 we have the Koh-i-Noor Diamond. Damn, this thing is huge and has a mega curse on it. The Koh-i-Noor Diamond is a massive rock worth millions, and it has been known to lead men to their deaths. It was taken from India by the British, big surprise, and ever since it's entered into the royal British family, dudes who wear it meet their end not too long after. But for some reason, when women wear it, nothing happens. Whatever dark presence haunts this gigantic stone seems to only hate men. It must be the ghost of Lena Dunham from the future. Time ghost. Since the rock has been permanently moved into the royal family, it has only been worn by 1 man, and I don't know if he died or not. And taking the number 1 spot on our list is the love letter replica painting. Now, why is this painting, out of all the other things on this list, on the top spot? Well, the painting is currently hung up in the Driscoll Hotel in Austin, Texas. People have said for years that the painting is haunted. Many people have reported that they feel very ill or even fall over just from walking past the painting, but that's not the reason why this is the top dog. The darkest story behind the love letters curse is about the daughter of Samantha Houston. She was playing in the hotel, she was about 4 years old, and she chased her ball down a flight of stairs. She then lost her footing and fell to her death. It's said that the curse of the painting is what caused this girl to trip, and of course, as we all know, killed her. So, kill a little girl, you get the number 1 spot on the list.
Now, number 10, a Pluto slug. Some people say Pluto isn't a planet or just a main planet anymore, just a dwarf planet, and to that, I say, no, Pluto is a real planet in my heart, okay? Anyways, on to what really matters. In 2016, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft got some nice pics of an icy region on Pluto's surface. If you look at the picture, there's like a little black formation in the center, and behind it is a trail. So it looks like a little slug has been making its way across the icy terrain, carving its own little path, making its way through this just desolate space. No, okay, I'm not crying because it's actually a slug, because it probably isn't. The scientists are saying it's likely a dirty block of water ice floating in a denser solid of nitrogen, so not a slug, but like it looks like it. It still is a mystery on what exactly it is, because that's more a hypothesis, you could say, but it's probably not a slug. But it doesn't stop me from thinking, like, doesn't that sound like a nice children's book or something? The slug on Pluto. It'd be so cute. That's all I'm thinking. On to number 9, the Mars spoon? Question mark? So this is a much closer planet than Pluto, who is still a planet in my heart. So this is Mars. So on a photo captured by the beloved NASA Curiosity rover, you can see what looks like a spoon, possibly? Like, it looks like a spoon, honestly. There's a handle, check. Mini concave element on the end of the handle, also check. Yes, it just looks like it's covered in dust because it's on the surface of Mars, which is, you know, a red, dusty planet, but spoon, nonetheless. This was spotted by a YouTube user called UFO Hunter, which led to more people kind of agreeing and being like, yeah, it looks kind of like a spoon. From then on, more people were questioning, just like, yo, where did this spoon come from? Was a Martian eating an ice cream sundae before an entire Martian race was just wiped out? And so that's kind of what UFO Hunter was thinking, saying it may be left over from a lost civilization, but we could just be projecting our ideas onto a clump of space dust, honestly. What if it's one of those things where you just touch it and it crumbles? Could be. I don't know. At number 8, fish rock. Is this another thing we could just be projecting? This fish-looking thing spotted on Mars is probably just a rock, but we gotta remember, Mars once had an ocean even bigger than the Arctic Ocean. And even if it could be a rock, it probably is a rock, look at the similarities to a fish. An upturned nose, a fin, and even a finned tail too. Have I ever caught a fish? No. And have I tried? Yes, but if I did catch one, I bet it would look like this, and I bet it would also be a rock that I was trying to convince people was a fish, but let's move on to number 7, face on Jupiter. So yes, let's hop on over to another planet, our big one in our solar system, the big old gas giant Jupiter. And now this image shows what looks like a derpy looking face on the gas giant. It even has a lovely name. Wait for it. Jovi McJupiter face. Very nice, very cute. So this face was awarded that beautiful name by Jason Major, a citizen scientist who rotated a photo that NASA took. Now, NASA's Juno spacecraft sent down an unaltered photo, and Major was like, nah. Let's interpret these two storms as eyes and the wider swirling red part as a mouth, which is genius. Now, Jovi McJupiter face obviously shows we can see the beauty and art in anything, in nature and life. So now, the next section that we're going to be talking about is staying within the realm of our solar system, but going in a little closer, a little smaller. So let's take a peek at the moons we have. So at number 6, we have Ravioli Moon. This delectable little treat of a moon is one of Saturn's moons. Its name is Pan, and yes, it looks like a little treat of ravioli. And ravioli gets tossed in a pan with butter or oil, right? Does that blend the two names together enough for you? Connections. Fun. Anyways, the reason it looks like the pasta is because material from Saturn's rings falls onto Pan's equator, and the buildup results in the really unique buildup on the equator that makes me think, ravioli. But maybe if you don't have food on the brain, you may think Pan looks more like a flying saucer, and in that case, right on. But for me, ravioli. On to number 5, Death Star Moon. The second and last of our honorable moon mentions is Mimas, or Mimas, aka the Death Star Moon. Now this is another of Saturn's many moons, and this one garners a few more eyes because of its similarities to the Death Star from Star Wars. And the big dish on the Death Star? Boom, big crater on Mimas. Is this really the Death Star in disguise? Probably not, since it's been orbiting Saturn for a bit, plus that idea was mainly for a fictional universe. Also mainly, this moon is really big. So Mimas is 396 kilometers in diameter, and the first Death Star and second Death Star were both between 160 and 140 kilometers in diameter. So if you're thinking, yeah, but what about the third Death Star? Well, that one's too big, measuring about 900 kilometers in diameter, so it's not that one either. So it's not the Death Star in disguise, so you can, exhale and breathe a little bit. But it is a cool looking moon, so yep. Okay, so next up is not only out of this world, but also out of this solar system. The next 3 we have are nebulas, which, if you don't know, are super cool on their own, even if they don't look like anything in particular, but these next 3 have the added X factor of looking just really cool. At number 4, we have Horsehead Nebula. So this first nebula we're looking at was captured by the Hubble Space Telescope back in 2013. The stunning nebula got the nickname Horsehead Nebula because of its looks. Think back to cloud watching when you were younger and seeing the shapes in them, and you can see that this nebula looks like the head and neck of a horse in this image with the nose of the horse facing the left. And unfortunately, we can't pay this little horsey a visit because it's about 1,500 light years away from the Orion constellation. And for reference, Orion's constellation is 243 to 1,360 light years away from us, so little ways away, but you can still admire it for its beautiful looks. This next one, number 3, is Space Crab. And so this one is quite a ways further. It's about 6,500 light years away from Earth, and it's the Crab Nebula. Now, let's look a bit more at this 5-layered composite image of this bad boy. So the composite image, it looks like something out of a movie. 1, stunning. And then again, 2, the colors, magnificent, such range. Do I sound like I'm impersonating Jonathan Van Ness? Yes. It looks like an artist made it. It's beautiful. And yes, this nebula is called the Crab Nebula because the range of its legs, so it said, but others have also compared these outstretchings to an octopus's tentacles. And so if you're having a hard time seeing these legs or arms that I'm talking about, look mainly at the pink sections and a little bit at the yellow, and I find it helps you paint a picture of what you're looking at. I am the nebula. On to another nebula, the Twin Jet Nebula, also known as a space butterfly. So this cosmic butterfly looking thing is actually a 2-lobed nebula. It has the official name PNM2-9, and it was originally spotted back in 1947. It's more commonly known as the Twin Jet Nebula because really it looks like 2 jets coming out of the back of a rocket ship colliding into one another, and then the blasts radiating outwards. I feel like you could even argue it's 2 pop bottles head to head shrouded in like a green atmosphere. But then if you look right in the center, I say it looks like a fairy from Legend of Zelda, which looks a bit like a butterfly. So that's where you get the name Cosmic Butterfly. Mystery solved. The Twin Jet Nebula is obviously a fairy from Legend of Zelda. You're welcome. So our number 1 is the D&D asteroid. And obviously this one is my number 1 because I am a gamer. A tabletop role-playing gamer, that is. Asteroid 2017 BQ6 has been compared to dice used in playing Dungeons & Dragons and also other tabletop games because of its angular shape. And you kind of have to know that this This is kind of odd because most planets and stuff around space is rounded. Kind of looks like a bunch of either spheres or just potatoes passing through. And so this asteroid passed from a distance of about 1.6 million miles away, but it didn't, land anywhere, like dice usually do. And like, if you think about it, there's already enough people thinking we are living in a simulation. But guys, what if we live in a game? One of their dice in the great unknown fell into space, and now they're laughing at us because we rolled a natural one on perception. A simulation game. You're thinking The Sims, I'm thinking they're just dictating each of our lives with dice rolls. It's all up to random. Who knows?
Starting us off at number 10 is true north. Very few places on Earth will ever actually point to true north. What is true north? True north is the direction that points exactly towards the geographic North Pole. Being that there are next to no markers and obviously no landmarks in the middle of the ocean, when GPS and other high-tech systems go awry, ships and other craft are forced to use their compasses as a way to stay on track. Compasses operate usually by pointing towards magnetic north, as the compass aligns with Earth's magnetic field. Magnetic north can shift depending on the change in the Earth's magnetic core, which operators and sailors are prepared for, thus creating a huge issue when operators and sailors traveling through the mysterious triangle discover that their compass is no longer working properly, because it's pointing to true north instead of magnetic north. I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've ever had to use a compass, and I think no matter what my compass reads, I would still be lost at sea. So Bermuda doesn't sound like the greatest vacay spot, but let's continue to see what's in store before we make up our mind. At number 9, we have the deepest spot on Earth. So we always talk about how much we want to keep exploring space and we want to get to know our own universe, but you know what's really funny to me? We still have barely scraped the surface, or under the surface, for exploring our own ocean. One of those places being the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is home to one of the deepest spots on Earth. Underneath the surface, the topography of the seafloor goes from a gentle sloping continental shelf to a drop of a few hundred feet to another drop of a few who knows how many thousand feet. Many disappearances that have been reported in the Bermuda Triangle could have their answers laying somewhere at the bottom of these deep trenches. But until we actually start exploring our oceans just as much as we explore space, just like whatever lays at the bottom, we will be left in the dark. At our number 8 spot, we have methane gas. This gas is colorless, odorless, highly flammable, and one of the main components in natural gas, which we all use to generate electricity and heat our homes all around the world. But guess what? It's also in the Bermuda Triangle. Due to decomposing sea organisms, scientists have discovered large concentrations of methane gas trapped in the ocean floor. Methane accumulates as concentrated methane ice, and if and when a pocket ruptures, the gas rockets upwards towards the surface without any warning or notice to those sailing above. If a ship were to be in the area of the blowout, it could possibly sink because the water would become much less dense and sediment could quickly cover it as the wreck lands on the sea floor. As of right now, there is no proof that this is the reason for any of the missing ships that have been reported in the Bermuda Triangle, but then again, how would we ever know? At our number 7 spot, we have Rogue Waves. Now, does that not sound like a great band name or what? Due to the location of the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic Ocean, storms can come from all directions. They can come from Mexico, from the equator, or the east side of the Atlantic. These storms, of course, make major waves reaching up to 30 feet or 10 meters tall. But what happens when they all come together at the exact same moment? These rogue waves can reach up to sizes of 100 feet or 30 meters tall. Engineers at the University of Southampton built models of different sized ships and simulated their own rogue waves in a wave tank for the small scale ships. What happened? These engineers discovered that these ships could indeed sink. The bigger the ship, the easier it was to sink, because big ships are designed to be supported in the front by the top of a wave, while the back is supported by another. But if hit by a rogue wave, those big ships, guess what? They snap in two. The small ones can sometimes survive if they hit the wave bow on, but most times will just get swallowed up completely. Rogue waves, hopefully not coming to an ocean near you. At our number 6 spot, we have electronic fog. So far, out of the many distress calls claiming to come from an electronic fog, these stories and events have been labeled as supernatural and not taken seriously. But there are reports from actual pilots who have flown through these strange phenomena, and it's wild. Veteran pilot Bruce Gurnon reports that when he was flying with his father in his classic Bonanza plane back in 1970, about 3 miles off Andros Island, an elliptical-shaped cloud began forming in front of them. Before the father and son could escape the path of this mysterious cloud, they were engulfed and had a tunnel form all the way around them. And while in the cloud flying at 10,000 feet, they reported seeing lines and the tunnel spiraling counterclockwise while propelling them forward. They then started feeling the effects of zero gravity, and all of their navigational systems started to fail. Fortunately, this electronic spiraling fog tunnel dissipated and they found themselves right over Miami Beach and were once again able to pick up radar. The next strange thing? They traveled 100 miles in 30 minutes less time than usual. Similar stories to Gurnon's have been reported as well, but with no real answers to how or why. Some suspect it could be something related to the Hutchison effect, but as of right now, the electronic fog is still a mystery. Coming in at our number 5's midway spot is the once infamous mythical creature proven to be real, the giant squid. Aside from the many strange events and things found in the Bermuda Triangle, some have reported seeing a giant octopus, or octopi if there are more than one. I wonder. Now, as of right now, there is no such thing as these creatures, but giant squid are indeed a real animal, and 2 Japanese scientists believe they caught one on camera. In 2005, 2 Japanese scientists spotted a giant squid aggressively taking baited lines. Normally, these creatures are not known to be in this area of ocean, but the footage says differently. These giant squid can reach up to 150 feet. Seeing the aggressive nature of this creature as well as the size, it is no wonder some believe that they could be responsible for some of the disappearing ships. Speaking of, coming in our top 4 spot, we have ships that have gone missing. As I said earlier, there are more than 50 ships that are reported to have gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle over the years. One of the most notorious ones being the USS Cyclops. One of the Navy's largest fuel ships went missing back in March 1918. This ship was carrying 10,800 tons of manganese ore with 309 crew members on board. Only one message was received from the ship during its voyage from Brazil to Baltimore, and it reported no trouble whatsoever while it was out on the sea. But then, it sailed through the Bermuda Triangle. The ship never made it to its destination and was never found. Not only was the ship never found, but also no debris or crew members either. There was no distress call received anywhere. One of the largest ships in the Navy and everything on board and everyone on board gone missing in a flash with no explanation? That's scary. Starting us off at our number 3 spot is planes gone missing. Over 20 aircraft just like ships have gone missing over the years, and some of these reports are quite recent too. One of the latest being just last year in May when a small twin-engine plane mysteriously went missing. Same thing as the USS Cyclops, those aboard started their flight with no complications whatsoever, and there were no distress calls reported or anything out of the ordinary. Once again, no wreckage, crew, or any signs of any explanation can be found. But maybe our next one on the list will help. At our number 2 spot, we have UFO sightings. If you have been keeping up to date with any of the alien news lately, you will know that there have been more than a couple of sightings all over North America in the last few years. One of them taking place over the Bermuda Triangle, April 28, 2020, reported by not just anyone, but the United States Air Force. Many of the United States Air Force members have come out quite recently with more and more sightings, with some of them dating all the way back to the 1970s, right over top of the Bermuda Triangle. I hear more and more alien information every day, and I am loving it. If I ever have a major reason to go to Bermuda, it's to see some aliens. Come on, who's coming with me? Finally, coming in at our number 1 spot is something we're going to have to grab our proton packs for, because our final and weirdest thing found in Bermuda is ghost ships. Back in 1881, the infamous Ellen Austin ship experienced a ghost ship in an area of the Bermuda Triangle before things went awfully awry. The crew of the Ellen Austin discovered the ship fully stocked but with no crew on board or anywhere to be seen. Seeing an opportunity for a free ship with supplies, part of the Ellen Austin crew took over the ship and prepared to sail back with the ships side by side. Just then, an unexpected storm came out of nowhere and totally engulfed the 2 ships. After the storm was over the next day, both ships came out of the Terror, but no crew was anywhere to be seen on the picked up ghost ship. Just then, crew members and captain of the Ellen Austin came aboard once again and then got swallowed up by a mysterious fog. And once the fog cleared, the ghost ship completely vanished along with everything and everyone. I hate to say it, but I guess that's karma, and she's always gonna come for you.